How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It is another Monday, which means it's time for another upload. Today I'm going to do something that was pretty highly requested. It seemed like a lot of people wanted this, and that is showing you what is in my disc golf bag. I don't know about you guys, but when I was first getting into disc golf, and this was back around 2013, in the bag videos were most of what was on YouTube for disc golf, and they were wildly popular. I swear I watched all of them, from the pros to the almost pros to just people that would post them that had only been playing disc golf for a week. Like, I just wanted to see what was in people's disc golf bags. I thought it was super fascinating. They're not as popular anymore, but a lot of people wanted to see this, so I figured I would go ahead and do one. I've made a few changes to my bag recently, so it'd be a good time to do it. Also, just want to mention, a lot of people wanted to see my full disc collection that will be coming soon. I'm in the process of moving right now into a new place, still here in Lynchburg, but it's just across town. Anyways, once I get settled in there and I can really set up all my discs the way I want to, I will eventually do a full collection video with all of my discs. So that'll be kind of fun, I guess. So if you still want to see that video, make sure to leave a like. Before we get started, I wanted to say as well, really appreciate everybody's support on our second video from last week. I'm still blown away by how many people are watching this channel and how many people want to see this content. So really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you. Also, if you're not following me on Instagram, I said I want to do kind of a giveaway monthly on Instagram. So there will be one coming up soon since we're in September now. So you can follow me at Trevor Staub on Instagram and keep an eye on my Instagram stories. That's probably where I'll post about giveaways and how to enter them. Let's get into my bag. I'm going to be pretty in depth with this, go through each disc, tell you kind of the story behind that disc, kind of give you a good background into why I'm throwing it. I also threw all my discs in a field so you can actually see what they do. Really high quality stuff here. So yeah, we're gonna start with just like the bag itself. This bag is an Atlas Pioneer bag. Atlas is a company that I helped start 2021, so a few years ago now. Yeah, me and a few other people own this company. Our primary product here is bags, but we do a lot of like other disc golf supplies as well. But this is the Atlas Pioneer bag. I have this one in like the Midnight Moss colorway. It's really cool, the black with like the kind of like green mossy color on it. And I really love that I can put all these patches on here. You know, I've got the Atlas, the Foundation, the Bogey Bro, and the Robbie C patch. So I think that's a really fun part of the bag. Just kind of going around it here before I get into the discs. I've got my bag tags here. This is a Bedford disc golf one. I never played a single tag match, so I ended up with 47 because that's what I got when I signed up. I then have the Foundation staff tags. We actually at Foundation have like a staff weekly. We try to, at least. Last year I actually got the 1 tag, which I was very proud of, and this year right now I have the 3 tag. I think I'm owed the 2, but I'm not sure who has that. But anyways, I've got a towel on here. Inside my bags, I don't keep anything too interesting. I do keep a rangefinder in here. This is from Atlas as well. This is the Scout rangefinder. I actually hydro dipped mine because I had never tried that before and it seemed like it was really easy, so I just went for it, and it wasn't too hard, and I got a pretty cool result. So this is a rangefinder. I'll try to link in the description all the like accessories and stuff I have in case you're interested in any of that. The last kind of accessory I have here is a Atlas chalk pouch. This is like a climber's chalk pouch, and it has like a bag of climber's chalk in it. I get really sweaty hands, so I need this. I can't just have the little like sport sacks, or whale sacks are okay, but like the loose chalk is best for me. That's really all I keep in my bag, other than usually like at least 1 mini. I'm not great about keeping minis. I used to be better. Right now I've got this mini Judge. This is from Worlds last year. I think Brody got this in his player's pack and gave it to me, or gave it to Hunter and I stole it, one or the other. All right, let's get into the discs. We're gonna start up top with the putters. I know some people like start their into bags going with the drivers first. I think you always start with the putters and move up. That's just me personally. So we'll start up in this putter pouch here. I have 3 putters. My putting putters are the Color Glow D-Line Flex 3, mouthful there, Rainmakers. If you don't know, if you don't follow me on social, every year for the last 2 years, I have done some kind of putter related bet or challenge. The first year I bet Hunter that Katrina Allen wouldn't sign for DGA. She did, so I had to putt with steadies for the whole year. It was a pretty good time. This previous year I did kind of a poll where I put out a bunch of, like a bracket actually, and then the putter bracket was narrowed down until the Rainmaker went out, which is really cool because I love this disc. It was one that I was kind of rooting for, and I putted with the 2022 Rainmakers at first, and they were fine, but they were a little heavier and dense for me. But these ones are a little bit lighter and glide a little more, and I've actually been putting really well with them. I think I've been at my best putting with these. Beadless putters have a little bit of stability at the end, but still have some glide to them. And I like the kind of stiffer feel. Like that's kind of how I like a putter. I don't like it to be super soft. That's just my preference. I don't like feeling like the putter could stick to my hand, basically. So yeah, this is what I've been putting with. but come January, I will probably be switching them out for whatever gets voted next year, unless they win back to back. That would be impressive. Throwing putter is a Judge here. This one says Party Sub on it. I thought that was really funny because I guess they kind of invented this term maybe, but basically party sub is supposed to be whenever you're within the length of a party sub, which is like 5 feet or 6 feet of the basket. That's considered like a party sub shot or putt. So that I thought was really funny. And then Brad ordered one of these from me from the wholesale list when we put in our order just so I could have it. Yeah, and it's just a Judge. I've been throwing and putting with Judges for a long time. It's one of the first putters that I ever used. I actually won my first disc golf tournament, still my only win to this day, at age 14. With Judges as my putters, and they're great throwers. I actually did forget to throw this one. This is the only disc I forgot to throw, so you'll have to bear with me, but it flies really straight. I can put it on any line I want and it'll hold it. It'll hold hyzer, it'll hold anhyzer, and it goes pretty straight flat. So it's just a great neutral throwing putter, and that's my only like glidey throwy putter I have right now. Moving on, we'll go to the approach section next. I consider approach like a different category than mid-range or putter at this point because, at least for me, I have 3 of these things. So starting off with the least stable, or the most understable, I should say, this is a slammer. This one is classic blend, like classic hard. I started throwing the slammer, I'm not really sure why even, but it was a couple years ago I started throwing the slammer and I kind of fell in love with it as a forehand approach disc, especially once it started to get beat in. I really loved the idea that I could just throw it hard and it would just kind of go dead straight, or even like I could throw a little turn on it and get it to like float over. So I really enjoyed that. I had it in my bag for about a year, and then Robbie C proceeded to chuck it directly into a creek when we were in South Carolina. Kind of funny. So then I put this one in immediately after. I dyed it Brooksy. My son's name is Brooks, so I thought it'd be fun to put that on there, make it a little more special. And I've since got it beat in pretty close to where that other one is. I love this disc. It's my go-to if I need to scramble. I did throw it into a river when I was in, where was I at that point? Idaho. Some guy went and found it in the river. Shout out, I can't remember your name off the top of my head, but shout out to the guy who went to find this in a river in Idaho and ship it back to me. That was amazing. I thought I had lost it. So next up in stability here, I have the ESP Zone. If you've been following me for a little bit recently, you know that I have loved ESP Zone right now. It's something I never would have thought I would have bagged. I always loved the Zone, but I never really thought to go ESP. But this disc has such an amazing flight pattern. It's a lot straighter than your Z zones, your like Crystal Flex zones. You get more glide out of it, but it still wants to fade. And so what that means is I can almost just use it as an overstable driving putter, that it will go far enough if I just throw it hard and flat, but still fade at the end. But I can still, if I put any amount of hyzer on it, it flies like a zone. I can still forehand it because I don't forehand particularly hard, and it flies like a zone. I get a lot of use out of this. This one has the Eagles Crossing stamp. Went out to Eagles Crossing last year, and so this one has been in my bag for a while now, and it's really, really nice. And then last but not least, I have the Zone OS. This is a first run that has like the beef flight numbers on it, which is really cool. I was very excited about this disc when it came out. I love having discs that I can trust no matter what. I can crank over on this thing so hard and it always fights out of it very quickly. It's one of those discs that you really can't throw further than like 250 feet. It's incredible. I love using it to scramble. Yeah, it doesn't come out all the time. It's a get out of jail type of disc, but when you need it, it is very useful to have. It's a very unique flight as well. If you haven't checked out the Zone OS, they're a good time. Now into the mid ranges. I used to probably carry a lot more mid ranges, but since I carry so much approach discs now, I only have 4 in my bag, which is still, you know, a fair amount. So I'll start with the most understable. Excuse all the grass that's all over these discs. I was throwing them in a wet field with mowed grass. This is the Supra from Finish Line Discs. So when I was on the West Coast, I threw my most beat in rock that was super old and flippy into a tree, and it exploded. And that is how I ended up putting in the Supra, because I was like, I need something that is more replaceable, but is still very, very flippy. And that is this disc. You can get really awesome hyzer flips out of this. It's very understable, and it's a good time. Supra. And I like the name Supra. That's fun. Next, I have this Z Buzz. This has been in my bag for quite some time now. I actually found this in a used section, and I had tinkered around with the Buzz many times in the past. However, I had never really fallen in love with it until I picked up one that was already beat in for me. Somebody did the work for me. This one was already beat in, and a beat in Buzz that you can get to hyzer flip to turn is amazing. It goes super far. I can throw a lot of really fun shots with this disc. I absolutely love this buzz. It goes probably just as far as all my fairways, and I can get a ton of different lines out of this thing. So I'd be very sad if I lost it. It's an incredible disc. Probably my most important mid-range though is this rock. So this is a Rock 3. This is an Anthony Barella 2015 US AM. So they made this disc the year that he won US AMs and World AMs in the same year. They made him this commemorative disc. I don't even know what this QR code goes to. I should check that out. It's kind of worn off now. But this is an Anthony Barella disc. A lot of you know I love AB, and this was from 2015. So this Rock 3 though has been in my bag for a while now. It started off as a stable disc. Now if I just throw it flat, it just goes straight forever. It's just my point and shoot disc. If I give it a baby amount of hyzer, it maybe pops up a little bit, but this disc is like, I really like throwing it with just a little bit of anhyzer and just letting it glide over to the right or just dead straight shots. I love this disc. It has seriously helped me a lot in tournament play when I need to throw a shot dead straight and just depend on something. This is the disc. Last mid-range, another really awesome one that's been kind of a recent discovery, and that is the DGA Quake. So I was initially I was drawn to this because look at this stamp. It's got the Midnight Flyer, like old school stamp. That's like one of the coolest stamps I've ever seen. But this disc solved a problem that I was trying to fix for a long time, which was looking for a disc that was more overstable than my rocks, but not quite like a zone type disc, something that still glided a bit, but had a nice reliable fade. I was throwing Wasps for a while and those work as well, but I really found that this Quake is a little bit faster and a little more comfortable in my hand, and man, does it just have the most incredible flight. It goes far, it's reliable. I could forehand this disc. The Quake is very underrated. DGA in general is, but this is a really special one. So moving on to the fairway drivers now. This has been a slot that I have struggled with for a little bit, just trying to figure out what I like to throw and what works for me. If you recently saw me on the In the Bag podcast, this whole fairway section was a bit of a mess. It's starting to get solved. I have a pretty good balance now. So starting with my flippiest disc, this is a Maverick. This is one that we Foundation ran with Valerie Mandujano at like her logo with the Foundation logo in it. It's a really cool disc. This is incredibly flippy. This is like you throw this on hyzer and it'll get down and roll type flippy. And I like having a fairway like that. A lot of people know that I like the Diamond from Latitude 64 just because I think it's fun to have discs that are excessively understable and excessively overstable in your bag. You never know what you can use them for. So this is a roller disc for sure, something that I need to go right, or maybe even like a gentle hyzer flip forehand or something. But that's what it's new to the bag. I'm still feeling it out, but that's kind of what it's for. Next up in stability, this is also new to the bag, but I love this disc already. This is a Zombie. Shout out to Devin, he sent this to me. This is a TI Zombie that was ran with Ledgestone, I believe. Yeah. And he got a cool die on it here, but this disc is awesome. It is kind of in that 6-speed slot that I really like. You'll see I have another disc in that slot as well. It's like a longer version of my Buzz basically, where it just pops up pretty easily and goes really nice and far. You can get good turnovers out of it. This is an awesome disc that I've been loving lately. The first time I threw it, I didn't know what it did, and I just threw it on hyzer. It just popped up dead straight and just went forever and then barely faded. It's such a cool disc, and I don't think a lot of people know about the Zombie, but it really has acted like a longer version of that Buzz that I have. The other disc that's kind of been, I would consider this a 6-speed, but it's technically a 7, but this is the Stalker. The Stalker is one of my favorite fairway molds of all time. I really think that this disc doesn't get enough love. This one's special because it actually has my wife's signature on it, but this is back when we weren't married yet, so it has her original signature with her old last name on it, but I don't know why she signed it, but I guess I had her sign it. In any case, this Stalker has been around for a while. I used to have a red Stalker in my bag that I had for the longest time that I got from the very first tournament that I won, and it's part of like the payout. And I left it in a field, like, I don't know, quite a few months ago at this point. So I've been beating in this Stalker ever since. It's at the point now where I can get it to flip up, and it's starting to turn into a really good fairway driver. It's a little more stable than that Zombie though, but very useful. So I've got some nice gapping. As you can see, the fairways are getting sorted out. Next stage up. So this is an Anthony Barella, there's a theme here, Anthony Barella T-Bird 3. This is like a color glow. I had this in my bag for a while, and then I took it out to put it in a Swirl Star KJ Nibo T-Bird I traded for because I always wanted that T-Bird. Then I lost said T-Bird. So luckily this one is a very good backup because it flies exactly the same. It is a little bit beat in, so basically I can throw it on hyzer and get it to push up a little bit to flat. If I throw it flat, it'll probably turn a little bit and then just kind of fade at the end. It's very a workable disc at this stage, and yeah, it's just a solid straight fairway, but it's really nice on hyzer to kind of get those pushing hyzers. So yeah, that's kind of in that slot. Then we go to the Honor from Latitude 64. This is a first run Honor. This disc, when it first came in and I felt it, I immediately just put my hands on it and I was like, this is one of the most comfortable discs I've ever felt. It just has good depth to it. I like a deeper disc a lot of the time, and this one feels really comfortable in my hand. It's also in the Supreme plastic, which is just top-notch stuff. It really is, and it's holding up too, because I've been throwing this disc a lot and it's still nice and stable. This disc kind of reminds me of the Eagle from Innova, where I can throw it pretty hard and flat. It has a nice reliable fade. It can handle a forehand. I can throw it on hyzer into some wind, nice and overstable. When this one beats in, I'll probably put in another one. They are really, really nice mold, and I've been loving this disc. Then finally, I have the Phoenix. Oh, actually, I do have one more fairway in my bag. I can't forget about that. But next up in stability, I should say then, this is the Phoenix from Mint Discs. So this one, when I first felt this one, it reminded me a lot of a PD from Discmania, and I still think it's pretty comparable. I would argue maybe a tad bit more stable, but this is my just like rip into a disc. Wind doesn't matter, and it'll always fade. That's kind of why I have this disc, but it still goes pretty far. I think it's like a 9-speed. I don't really throw a lot of forehands with it just because the Eternal plastic that it's in, I think, is a great plastic, but I don't know, it's a little slick for me. I need like a pretty grippy disc for forehands, but I do love ripping backhands with this disc and just trusting that it'll hyzer. It's like my go-to hyzer disc for fairways. Last fairway I have, this one doesn't come out of the bag very often, but this is the Z Extreme. This is actually a Z Swirl one that was from Ledgestone, and this is kind of like the Zone OS, but a fairway. It is called the Extreme for a reason. If you throw it on extreme angles of anhyzer, it'll fight out. It's a scramble disc. That's basically it, but I like having the option. Okay, and then finally, let's go ahead and get into the distance drivers. Been some change ups in the distance drivers because I lost a few recently. Starting with the most understable, this one has been in my bag for a long time now, and this is the Honey from Clash Disc. This is actually a prototype one, so this is the first one I ever got my hands on. A really, really awesome, really understable disc. I use this for hyzer flip forehands because I don't throw my forehand super hard, so it gives me some more distance. I love using them for rollers. It is such a long, this thing will roll forever. It's a great roller disc, especially for me because I need a disc that'll kind of just do the work for me. And sometimes really humongous max distance shots if I'm going for big air sky hyzer flips, but I love the Honey. This disc, when it gets too flippy, if that's even a thing, I will certainly replace it with a new one. Next amount of stability I have, this is a very special disc to me. This is a hybrid Raider. I have a few Raiders in my bag. This one I've had in my bag. This disc has probably been in my bag longer than any other disc in my bag. I think I've had it since I was on Team Trilogy, or Team Dynamic, I should say, back in the winter, I believe it was the winter of 2020 that I joined Team Dynamic. This bat went in my bag right away because Alex Bush, who is a Virginia native, he is big on Team Dynamic, runs a lot of tournaments, and he does custom stamp Dynamic, and he sent me this. It has a can of Bush's baked beans, says extra saucy on there. He always does themed stuff with his last name, Bush. So like he's done like a Bush light stamp, but this is the Bush's baked beans one. Awesome stamp, it's almost worn off, but this is a hybrid Raider. So I believe that means it's a hybrid between Fusion and Lucid plastic, but it's beat in now to where I can just get huge hyzer flips out of it. I can throw massive turnovers. It is an awesome disc. Like this is when the Raider is at its best. When it gets beat in like this, I have almost lost it a million times. I'll be really sad when I do because it's gonna be tough to replace. Just a great disc. Next, I have in stability here a Wraith. This one has a really cool peace sign die on it. I just thought it was kind of fun. I found this in the U section. The Wraith historically was like my favorite disc ever in college. The Wraith absolutely carried me through collegiate tournaments. I had a blue one in my bag that I threw like off of every tee. And I searched and searched to try and find one that was similar, that I really liked, that was already beat in and hyzer flipped. And this one is really nice. I can get a really easy hyzer flip out of this. I can get a turnover out of it if I want. It's a little more stable than the Raider and a little more controllable. I do like it for forehands as well. It does have a pretty forgiving flight with that. So yeah, this Wraith is has been a nice addition to my bag as of recent. Next up in stability here, my other Raider. So this one I got in Vegas a few months ago. I got this one in Vegas a few months ago. It has a fun stamp on there. It says, I threw OB. at the Grove Classic 2022. I didn't play the Grove Classic, but I went to a shop in Las Vegas and they had this disc here from an old tournament. And I just thought it was a funny stamp. I like having like cool stamps, even if they relate to something I was never even at. I just think it's fun. This Raider is newer than my other one. I kind of have it in case I lose the other one. I'm trying to start to work it in, but right now it already hyzer flips up and just goes straight and then fades at the end. So it's already a really nice and useful disc. I had to kind of relearn this disc because when I got it, we were throwing at elevation and discs fly different at elevation. I found out the hard way. So when we got back to Virginia, I kind of had to relearn this disc, but I am really liking it. It's a solid disc and I just love the feel of the Raider. It's a very comfortable disc for me. Two more distance drivers. We have a brand new destroyer in my bag. So I recently lost a destroyer I had for a while in my bag that had a really cool like Bogey Bro stamp on it, but I've replaced it with one that is arguably cooler. This here is a foundation stamp destroyer. This is one of the first custom stamp runs that I was ever a part of when I started working at the company. And we tried to imitate the old McPro AVR stamp destroyers that Paul used to throw. And we kind of just did like a retro type stamp. I really think these are awesome. They're also a really good runner destroyer. They're not crazy overstable. They glide a little bit, but still have that reliable fade. So this one I'm very excited to be throwing. I kept it out of my bag for a long time because I just wanted to preserve it, but it's time and it's gonna be a lot of fun to throw. And then last, but certainly not least, my most overstable distance drivers is also relatively new to the bag. This is a Hypercane. This is actually a first run one. The Hypercane is from DGA. It's basically like a Force from Discraft, but always overstable. Sometimes you get a Force and they're just not as overstable as you want them to be. These I found to be more consistent. I was throwing a Warbird from Lone Star in this slot, but the original one I had, it got warped, so I tried replacing it. And I just couldn't find one that was quite stable enough. So this is what I've gone to, but this is gonna be plenty reliable as my most overstable disc in the bag. And that's what I'm going for now. This one will be good if I throw it flat, it'll still fade out, and if I can crank over on a little bit, trust it in wind. Yeah, that's it. That is every disc in my bag. I think it's in a pretty good spot right now. I've definitely worked a lot this year on my gapping in certain areas, trying to make sure I don't have a ton of overlap, but I think some overlap is okay sometimes. You lose discs out there on the course. Might not be a bad idea to have a backup. Hopefully you enjoyed seeing what's in my bag in this video. Once again, if you do want to see my entire disc collection, make sure to leave a like on the video. That will be coming sometime in the future. Other than that, I will see you next Monday with another upload. Thanks again for the support.